The faint blue glow of holographic displays cast eerie shadows across Senior Observer Kang's weathered face as he leaned forward in his chair. His three-fingered hand trembled slightly as he double-checked the readings. After 30 years of monitoring primitive civilizations, he had never seen anything like this. "Commander Park needs to see this immediately," he muttered, his voice barely audible over the soft hum of the monitoring station's equipment. The anomaly had appeared without warning, a massive energy surge from a supposedly pre-spaceflight world called Earth. The readings were clear, quantum tunneling signatures, far beyond what should have been possible for their technological level. Kang's mandibles clicked nervously as he transmitted the data to his superior. Within minutes, Commander Park strode onto the observation deck, his ceremonial cape billowing behind him. The commander's reputation for thoroughness was legendary throughout the Galactic Council. He studied the readings in silence, his four eyes narrowing as he processed the implications. "This can't be right," Park said finally. "According to our last assessment, they were still burning fossil fuels and barely reaching their own moon. They shouldn't achieve quantum tunneling for at least another century." Kang nodded in agreement. "The readings are verified, sir. Multiple monitoring stations have confirmed it. Something has changed on Earth." Park's decision came swiftly. He authorized the deployment of Scout Fleet 7 to investigate. The fleet, consisting of 5 of the Council's most advanced stealth vessels, would approach Earth under complete concealment. It was a standard procedure for evaluating potentially dangerous civilizations, one that had worked flawlessly for thousands of years. But Earth was anything but standard. Admiral Lee stood in Earth's primary defense command center, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The massive chamber buzzed with activity as technicians and officers monitored the approaching Council vessels. A small smile played across his lips. They had been waiting for this moment for 15 years. "They're right on schedule," Lee remarked to his second-in-command. "The Council's predictability makes our job much easier." Earth's quantum detection grid had picked up the Council ships the moment they entered the solar system. Their supposedly advanced stealth technology was child's play to defeat. Thanks to decades of studying Council transmissions, humanity had prepared well for this day. The Council ships settled into high orbit, completely unaware that their every movement was being tracked. Ambassador Sung, selected by the Council for his experience in handling primitive species, prepared for what he assumed would be a routine first contact scenario. The Council's diplomatic shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, its pilots confident in their stealth systems. They were shocked when they received a direct transmission from Earth's Defense Command, welcoming them by name and providing landing coordinates. Defense Minister Kim watched from his office as the shuttle touched down at the designated landing site. The look of confusion on the alien diplomats' faces as they emerged would be something he would remember for the rest of his life. Everything had gone exactly according to plan. Ambassador Sung tried to maintain his composure as he was led into a state-of-the-art diplomatic facility that shouldn't have existed. His carefully prepared speech about guiding primitive species into the galactic community suddenly seemed painfully inappropriate. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Sung," Kim said through a perfect universal translator, another technology Earth shouldn't have possessed. "We've been looking forward to this meeting for quite some time." Sung's mandibles twitched in agitation. "How do you know my name? How did you detect our arrival?" "This is impossible." Kim leaned back in his chair, enjoying the moment. "Nothing is impossible, Ambassador. We've been listening to your communications, studying your technology, and preparing for this day since we first detected your monitoring stations 15 years ago." The revelation hit Sung like a physical blow. His mind raced through the implications. If Earth had been aware of the Council's presence all this time, what else had they discovered? What other capabilities had they hidden? "The Council demands your immediate submission to its authority," Sung declared, falling back on his standard diplomatic protocol. "Your unauthorized technological development must be properly supervised and controlled." The human officials exchanged amused glances. Minister Kim's response was polite but firm. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Ambassador. Earth is not interested in submitting to anyone's authority. We are, however, open to discussing equal diplomatic relations. As Sung sputtered in indignation, Admiral Lee was already implementing the next phase of humanity's carefully crafted plan. Soon, the Council would learn just how badly they had underestimated Earth. Their comfortable certainties about their place in the galaxy were about to be shattered forever. The first contact that should have established Council dominance over another primitive species had instead revealed a civilization that had completely outmaneuvered them. As Ambassador Sung's shuttle departed Earth's atmosphere, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a massive shift in galactic power. Commander Park would later describe this day in his personal logs as the moment everything changed. The Council's nightmare was just beginning, and Earth was holding all the cards. As Ambassador Sung's shuttle docked with the Council flagship, the waters of the Pacific Ocean began to churn. Deep beneath the surface, massive hangar doors slowly opened, releasing a titan that would change galactic history forever. Commander Yoon felt a surge of pride as the EDS Prometheus rose from its underwater berth. Streams of water cascaded down the battleship's gleaming hull as it breached the surface, like a mechanical leviathan. The massive vessel stretched nearly 2 kilometers in length, its sleek design unlike anything the Council had ever encountered. "All systems are nominal," reported his first officer. "Stealth systems disengaging on your mark." Yoon took a deep breath, savoring the moment. Disengage stealth systems. Let's show our visitors what humanity can really do. Aboard the Council flagship, Admiral Han was reviewing Ambassador Sung's disturbing report when the alerts began blaring. The massive human vessel had appeared out of nowhere, its sudden emergence sending shockwaves through the Council fleet. "Impossible," Han shouted, staring at the tactical display. "Where did that come from? How did we not detect it?" Before his officers could respond, more alerts sounded. Across the solar system, hidden bases were activating. From beneath the lunar surface, from Mars' polar ice caps, from the clouds of Venus, and from bases hidden in asteroid fields, hundreds of ships emerged. Each vessel bore the same sleek design as the Prometheus, though at varying scales. In the Council's Central Intelligence Hub, Director Choi received the first sensor readings of the human fleet. His hand shook as he analyzed the data. The human vessels incorporated multiple technologies that his scientists had declared fundamentally incompatible: quantum shielding alongside gravity manipulation, dark energy drives working in concert with antimatter reactors. "This defies everything we know," Choi whispered, his professional composure cracking. "These ships shouldn't be possible." Back on the Prometheus, Commander Yoon gave his next order. "Begin demonstration maneuvers. Show them what we can do." The human fleet moved with impossible grace. Ships larger than Council cruisers pulled turns that should have torn them apart. Smaller vessels phased through each other's quantum fields in complex battle formations that ignored the conventional laws of physics. The Prometheus itself seemed to dance among its escort fleet, its movements fluid and precise. Admiral Han watched in growing horror as the human ships demonstrated capabilities that made his own fleet look primitive by comparison. His tactical officers were nearly in panic as they tried to analyze the human vessel's capabilities. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, voice trembling, "we're detecting energy readings that exceed our scale's maximum values. Their smallest ships have more power output than our largest dreadnoughts." Han knew his report to the Council would trigger an unprecedented crisis. In all his years of service, he had never seen anything like this. The humans hadn't just caught up to Council technology. They had surpassed it in ways that seemed impossible. The Prometheus glided closer to the Council fleet, close enough for Han to make out individual details of its hull. The vessel's design was beautiful in its efficiency, with not a single wasted line or unnecessary component. It spoke of technological mastery far beyond what should have been possible for such a young civilization. Receiving transmission from the human vessel, his communications officer announced. Commander Yoon's voice came through clear and confident. "Admiral Han, we hope this small demonstration has been informative." Consider it a gesture of goodwill, showing you what we're capable of rather than having you discover it the hard way. The implied threat wasn't lost on Han. His fleet, the pride of the Council's scouting forces, was hopelessly outmatched. The humans could have destroyed them at any time during their approach to Earth. In his office on the Council homeworld, Director Choi began drafting the most difficult report of his career. How could he explain to the Council that a supposedly primitive species had not only matched their technology but exceeded it? The political implications were staggering. The human fleet continued its intricate maneuvers, each movement a calculated display of technological superiority. Commander Yoon allowed himself a small smile as he watched the Council ship's erratic sensor suites. Every scan would tell them the same thing. Humanity was ready for its place among the stars, whether the Council approved or not. As the demonstration concluded, the human ships took up defensive positions around Earth. The message was clear. This was not a civilization that would submit to Council authority. This was a power that had emerged fully formed, ready to challenge 10,000 years of Council dominance. Admiral Han began composing his report with trembling hands. How could he convey the magnitude of what he had witnessed? The Council's comfortable certainty about its place in the galaxy had just been shattered, and he had to be the one to tell them. The nightmare was only beginning. The Grand Council chambers had never seen such disorder in its 1,000-year history. The normal decorum of the circular hall had dissolved into near chaos as representatives from 100 worlds shouted over each other. The massive holographic display at the chamber center showed the Earth fleet's demonstration on endless repeat, each viewing adding to the growing panic. Representative Song slammed his fist on his podium, his scales flushing dark purple with rage. We must strike now, while we still can. Every moment we delay gives these humans more time to prepare. From across the chamber, Ambassador Jin's voice cut through the chaos. And start a war we might not win. Look at those ships again. Really look at them. They've been watching us for years while we thought them primitive. Who knows what other surprises they have waiting? The neutral faction's leader, Counselor Ryu, stood at the center platform, trying to restore order. His traditional mediator's robes swirled around him as he raised his arms for attention. Esteemed colleagues, please, we must approach this situation with clear heads. But clarity was in short supply. The Council's members had never faced a situation like this. Their protocols for handling emerging civilizations had always assumed technological superiority on their part. Nothing had prepared them for a species that had hidden its development so completely. Meanwhile, in a less prominent but equally important meeting room, Secretary Ba of Earth's diplomatic corps was having a very different kind of conversation. She sat across from representatives of the Centaurian Alliance, one of the Council's smaller member species. As you can see, Ba explained, displaying technical specifications on a holoscreen, we're prepared to share our advances in quantum shield harmonics. Your ships could double their defensive capabilities within months. The Centaurian delegates exchanged excited looks. Their species had been requesting access to improved shield technology from the Council for decades, always being told they weren't ready for such advances. Similar meetings were taking place throughout the Council's massive space station. Earth's diplomatic corps had done their homework well, knowing exactly which species had been held back by Council restrictions and what technologies they most desired. Back in the main chamber, Representative Song was still pushing for military action. These humans are a direct threat to Council authority. They've been spying on us, stealing our technology. Stealing. Ambassador Jin interrupted. Their technology surpasses ours in several key areas. If anything, we should be worried about what else they've developed that we haven't seen yet. Counselor Ryu tried again to calm the situation. Perhaps we should focus on understanding how they achieved such advances without detection. Our monitoring systems are clearly inadequate. Song shouted. This failure of intelligence alone demands immediate action. In her private meeting room, Secretary Ba smiled as reports came in from other diplomatic teams. The Proximan Federation was interested in Earth's propulsion advances. The Regellian Compact wanted to discuss asteroid mining techniques. Even some of the Council's founding species were quietly reaching out through back channels. The Council's power had always rested on technological superiority and controlled advancement of its member species. Earth's emergence threatened that entire system, not through military might alone, but through the simple willingness to share knowledge freely. In the council chamber, the debate continued to rage. But in offices and meeting rooms throughout the station, the real power shift was already beginning. Species that had chafed under council restrictions for centuries were seeing an alternative path. Ambassador Jin watched the continuing chaos with growing concern. "Look at these scans again," he pleaded. "Their smallest escort vessels have power signatures we can barely measure. A military response would be suicide." "Coward," Song spat. "You would have us surrender our authority without a fight." Councillor Ryu finally lost his patience. "Enough. This bickering solves nothing. We need a unified response." But unity was the last thing the council would find that day. As the arguments continued, more reports arrived of member species making independent contact with Earth's representatives. The Council's grip on galactic affairs was slipping, not through force of arms, but through the simple act of offering other worlds a choice. Secretary Ba concluded another successful meeting, adding another species to the growing list of potential allies. The humans had spent years studying not just Council technology, but Council politics. They knew exactly where the pressure points were, which species felt overlooked or restricted. The power shift wasn't happening in the Grand Council chamber with its shouting representatives. It was happening in quiet rooms where centuries of resentment toward Council authority met the promise of unrestricted technological advancement. As the day drew to a close, Councillor Ryu finally managed to adjourn the session without any formal decisions being made. But the lack of official action didn't matter. Earth's diplomatic corps had achieved more in a day of quiet meetings than the Council's shouting matches had in weeks. The old order was crumbling, not with a bang, but with a whisper. Admiral Moon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Celestial Hammer, as his battle group dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 40 of the Council's finest warships stretched out behind him, their weapons primed and shields at maximum power. The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. This would be a quick operation to put these upstart humans in their place. "All ships report ready for combat," his executive officer announced. "No sign the humans have detected our approach." Moon nodded in satisfaction. The surprise attack had been planned meticulously, using the Council's most advanced stealth technology. The humans wouldn't know what hit them until it was too late. But aboard the EDS Prometheus, Captain Shin was already moving his pieces into position. The massive battleship's sensors had detected the Council fleet's approach hours ago, tracking their supposedly stealthy movement through hyperspace with ease. "Battle stations," Shin ordered calmly. "Execute Plan Delta. Let's show them what they're really dealing with." The Prometheus appeared to be alone as it moved to intercept the Council fleet. Its escort ships remained hidden, their quantum signatures masked by technology the Council couldn't even detect, let alone understand. Admiral Moon's smile widened as he saw the single Earth vessel approaching. "Arrogant fools, sending one ship against our fleet. This will be over quickly." The Council ships moved into attack formation, their energy weapons charging. Standard protocol called for overwhelming force. No need for fancy tactics against an inferior opponent. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, something strange about their shield readings. Before Moon could respond, the Prometheus made its first move. The massive ship's quantum displacement shields activated, creating a cascading ripple in space-time itself. The Council's initial volley of energy weapons passed harmlessly through the distorted space around the human vessel. "Impossible," Moon shouted. "No shield technology can." His words were cut short as the Prometheus revealed its primary weapon. The graviton lance cut through space like a blade of pure force, its beam slicing through 3 Council ships as if their shields didn't exist. The destroyed vessels didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist as their molecular bonds were severed at the quantum level. Evasive maneuvers, Moon ordered, but it was already too late. The Prometheus moved with impossible speed, its massive bulk dancing through space as gracefully as a fighter craft. Each shot of its graviton lance found its mark, methodically eliminating the Council's finest ships. The Council fleet's return fire proved useless. Their most powerful weapons couldn't penetrate the quantum displacement field surrounding the Prometheus. It was like trying to fight a ghost armed with weapons that rewrote the laws of physics. "Sir, we're detecting more ships," his sensor officer screamed. The Prometheus's escort fleet had revealed themselves, emerging from their perfect stealth cover to join the battle. Each smaller vessel demonstrated the same impossible technology as their flagship. Moon watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. Ships that had served proudly in a dozen campaigns were reduced to their component atoms in seconds. The humans weren't just winning. They were doing it with terrifying efficiency. "Fall back," Moon ordered, but even retreat proved impossible. The human ships had surrounded them in a three-dimensional web of quantum fields that prevented hyperspace jumps. Captain Shin's voice came through on all frequencies, calm and almost sympathetic. "You should have listened to your diplomats, Admiral Moon." The celestial hammer shuddered as another graviton lance strike eliminated its escort ships. Moon realized with growing dread that the humans were saving his flagship for last, forcing him to watch his fleet's destruction. "Send the transmission," Moon ordered his communications officer, his voice hollow. They knew. That's all they need to know. They knew. Those were the last words transmitted from the Council fleet before the Prometheus's final strike. The battle had lasted less than an hour, but its impact would reshape galactic politics forever. Captain Shin stood on his bridge, watching the quantum fields dissipate where Moon's flagship had been. There was no debris, no wreckage. The Council fleet had been erased from existence with surgical precision. "Send word to Earth Command," Shin ordered. "The demonstration is complete. They'll need to know everything that happened here." As the Prometheus and its escorts resumed their patrol positions, the message of this brief battle spread across Council space at the speed of light. Humanity hadn't just defeated a Council battle group. They had done it with technology that made the Council's finest weapons look like children's toys. The breaking point had been reached, and there would be no going back to the old order. The galaxy would never be the same. The Council's war room buzzed with frantic activity as Counselor Nam paced before the massive tactical display. The loss of Admiral Moon's battle group had shaken the Council's confidence, but Nam had convinced them that overwhelming force was the only answer to the human threat. "We commit everything," Nam declared, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Every reserve fleet, every experimental weapon. We will not allow these humans to destroy 10,000 years of order." Commander O stood silently at the display, studying the planned invasion routes. His reputation had been built on 40 years of perfect victories, and the Council looked to him now to maintain that record. But something about this situation made his combat instincts scream warnings. "The attack begins in 6 hours, Nam announced. "Show these humans what real power looks like." On Earth, Defense Minister Kim sat in the underground command center, watching the Council's fleet movements on his own displays. Everything was proceeding exactly as humanity's strategists had predicted years ago. "Activate the orbital defense grid," Kim ordered quietly. Across Earth's solar system, thousands of seemingly innocent satellites and debris pieces suddenly came to life. The grid had been hidden in plain sight, disguised as space junk and defunct equipment. Each piece was actually a weapons platform more advanced than anything the Council possessed. Commander O's massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. 3,000 ships, the largest force the Council had ever assembled, prepared to strike at Earth. The human homeworld appeared defenseless before them. No sign of their fleet, O's sensor officer reported. The Prometheus and its escorts have withdrawn to the far side of their moon. O frowned. Something wasn't right. "Hold position," Full sensor sweep before we advance. But the sensors showed nothing unusual. The path to Earth seemed clear. In the command center, Kim watched the Council fleet's hesitation with satisfaction. They're right where we want them. Signal Captain Shin and Admiral Kwan. Execute Operation Checkmate. The trap was sprung with devastating precision. The orbital defense grid activated simultaneously, thousands of weapons platforms revealing themselves in a perfect sphere around the Council fleet. At the same time, the Prometheus and its escort fleet emerged from their quantum hiding positions behind the Council forces. Commander O realized too late that his fleet had been encircled. Evasive action. Break formation. But there was nowhere to go. The grid platforms fired their primary weapons. Temporal disruption beams that froze sections of space-time itself. Council ships found themselves trapped in bubbles of slowed time, unable to maneuver or fire their weapons. Captain Shin coordinated with Admiral Kwan through quantum-entangled communications that the Council couldn't detect or interrupt. Their ships executed a perfect pincer movement, herding the trapped Council vessels into killing zones. "This is impossible," Nan whispered, watching from the war room as the tactical display showed his invasion force being systematically dismantled. How long have they been planning this? The answer was generations. Humanity had known this day would come and had prepared accordingly. The grid wasn't just a defense system. It was a work of military art, designed to counter every possible Council strategy. Commander O watched helplessly as his perfect record crumbled. The humans weren't just winning. They were conducting a masterclass in space warfare. Their coordinated attacks showed levels of planning and execution that would be studied for centuries. "They're not even trying to destroy us," O realized with growing horror. "They're demonstrating their superiority. This isn't a battle. It's a lesson." In the command center, Kim allowed himself a small smile as reports of Council ships surrendering began to pour in. The grid had performed even better than simulations had predicted. "Send the message," Kim ordered. "Tell them we're willing to accept their surrender. No need for further loss of life." The Council's mighty invasion fleet had been reduced to a trapped, powerless mass in less than 30 minutes. Humanity's victory was total and absolute. As O prepared to give the surrender order, he finally understood. The humans hadn't just prepared for this battle. They had shaped it, predicted it, and controlled every aspect of it from the beginning. Even the Council's decision to launch a full-scale invasion had probably been part of their plan. The war room fell silent as Nam received O's surrender transmission. The Council's greatest fleet commander, defeated by defenses that no one had even known existed. The balance of power hadn't just shifted, it had been completely overturned. In the centuries to come, military academies would indeed study this battle. They would analyze how humanity had turned space itself into a weapon, how they had hidden their true capabilities until the perfect moment, and how they had won without destroying their opponent. The second wave had become the last wave. The age of Council dominance was over. The Grand Council News Network broadcast center fell silent as Ambassador Ju stepped up to the podium. Hundreds of reporters from across the galaxy watched, their recording devices trained on the human diplomat. None of them expected what was about to happen. For thousands of years, Ju began, her voice calm and measured. The Council has claimed to guide and protect developing civilizations. Today, we will show you the truth. The holographic displays behind her came to life, showing classified Council documents that should never have seen the light of day. Trade agreements that enriched Council officials while keeping entire species in poverty. Military orders to suppress technological advancement. Secret directives to maintain artificial scarcity of crucial resources. These are not isolated incidents, Ju continued, as damning evidence continued to appear behind her. This is systematic corruption on a galactic scale. In his secure office, Director Min of Earth Intelligence watched the broadcast with satisfaction. Decades of careful intelligence gathering were finally bearing fruit. His agents had collected every secret, every hidden transaction, every suppressed innovation. The reaction across the galaxy was immediate. On the industrial worlds of the Proxima system, factory workers downed their tools and took to the streets. In the mines of the Rigel colonies, laborers who had suffered for generations under council quotas began to organize. "We have more," Ju announced to the stunned reporters. "Much more. Earth has not been idle during our years of supposed primitive development. We have been watching, learning, and most importantly, making friends." The next set of documents she revealed sent shockwaves through the Council's power structure. Secret treaties and agreements between Earth and dozens of supposedly loyal Council member species. Technology sharing arrangements, defense pacts, trade deals, all carefully hidden from Council oversight. "Your own member worlds came to us," Ju explained, seeking an alternative to Council control. "We offered them partnership instead of submission, cooperation instead of suppression." The Prometheus, still orbiting Earth after its victory over the Council fleet, had become more than just a warship. Its image was being broadcast on every rebel channel, every resistance network. It represented hope, proof that the Council's technological superiority was a lie. Director Min's next move was perfectly timed. As the initial shock of Ju's revelations began to fade, he authorized the release of the technical database. Centuries of Council-suppressed innovations, improvements, and discoveries were suddenly available to anyone who wanted them. No more artificial restrictions, Min announced in his own broadcast. No more technological suppression. Knowledge should be free. The Council chambers erupted into chaos as member worlds began formally announcing their independence. The Centaurian Alliance was first, followed quickly by the Proximan Federation. Within hours, dozens of worlds had severed their ties with the Council. Ambassador Ju continued her presentation, each new revelation driving another nail into the Council's coffin. "We have evidence of deliberate sabotage of developing civilizations, proof of Council agents destroying promising technologies to maintain control." The rebellion spread faster than anyone had predicted. Species that had been rivals for centuries found common cause in their resistance to Council authority. Earth's promise of unrestricted technological development and fair trade proved more powerful than millennia of enforced loyalty. Director Min watched as his carefully laid network of alliances activated. Supply lines that had been established in secret years ago began operating openly. Underground resistance movements that Earth had quietly supported emerged into the light. The Council's attempts to control the narrative failed completely. Their emergency broadcasts were drowned out by the flood of evidence Earth had released. Every denial was met with another damning document, another revealed secret. "The age of suppression is over," Ju declared in her closing statement. "Earth extends an open hand to all species who wish to join us in building a truly free galaxy." The Prometheus began receiving requests for diplomatic visits from worlds across the galaxy. Its quantum communication arrays worked overtime as species after species sought to establish relations with Earth. In his office, Min allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The diplomatic revolution had succeeded beyond their highest expectations. The Council's authority hadn't been destroyed by military might alone. It had been undone by the truth. "Send the final message," Min instructed his staff. It was time to reveal the last piece of their plan. Earth's proposal for a new galactic alliance, one built on equality and mutual benefit rather than control and suppression. The old order was dying, not with a bang, but with the quiet thunder of truth finally spoken aloud. The diplomatic revolution had succeeded where force alone could not. It had changed the very foundation of galactic society. Ambassador Ju's words echoed across the stars. "Welcome to a new era. Welcome to freedom." The grand hall of the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Building gleamed under the light of Earth's sun. President Cho stood before representatives of 1,000 worlds, her voice carrying across the vast chamber with quiet authority. "We did not come to the stars to conquer," she declared, "but to connect. Today, we begin anew." The remaining council members sat in their designated section, their numbers greatly reduced, but their presence crucial to what was about to unfold. Among them sat Commander Park, the very officer who had first noticed Earth's quantum tunneling signature years ago. The Prometheus hung in orbit above, its weapons permanently deactivated, transformed from a weapon of war into a symbol of change. School ships frequently visited the mighty vessel, young beings of all species learning how a single ship had helped reshape the galaxy.